Well, welcome everybody. Thank you very much for attending. My name is Joe DiCostanzo. I'm the Vice President of Education at Nebraska Children and Families Foundation. I've had the joy of partnering with NDE and my co-presenter here over the last year on our full service community schools initiative. So we'll dive into some of the details after we get an opportunity to hear from Mariella.
Yes, good morning. Mariella Resendiz Alvarado. I'm with the Nebraska Department of Education, and I'm the Director of Education Partnership and Support, and have had the privilege to work with Joe and 4 of our communities around the community school approach. And we're going to share with you a little bit more about our journey this last year.
And to put a little context in it before we get too deep, our 4 full service community sites are Grand Island at their O'Connor Learning Center, so it's their preschool, Schuyler Elementary School, South Sioux City at Dakota City Elementary, and Fremont Middle School in Fremont, obviously. And this partnership and this opportunity really came from the ESSER dollars, pandemic relief, that I want to give our partners at NDE credit for thinking through and prioritizing the idea of community schools as an opportunity to really support not only schools, but communities and all kids, and bringing in opportunities for engagement that go beyond academics. And it has certainly not been the easiest thing to do, but that's what we hope to share a little bit around some lessons learned, plenty of successes, and just things for you to consider as you work with your school and your district on partnership and how to reach more students and families.
So we wanted to make sure when we were talking to communities about a community school approach to really come down with a definition of what a community school is, to identify again how we can partner. And so this is really what we're looking at, that definition. It is a process. So a community school approach, it's not a program. It is a process, and it is intentional partnerships that really make a community school work. And so we wanted to make sure that as we were working with these 4 communities, really indicating to them the support that they would need would come from those community partners. I know a lot of you in the 21st century have great partnerships already. I mean, I just look at the hallway and all of the partners that are available to you in the before and after school world. And so looking at how can we integrate those services then into the school, and beyond that, be able then to partner and collaborate in order to, again, make those services available to students, to families, and also to give community partners that opportunity to come into the school and provide those services that they are very much invested in, and that they want to make sure that their community have those resources available to them. And so really looking at that at the high level, it's also from the Department of Education side, looking at how are we providing services to all of our students? How are we engaging with our educators so that they also have the resources available when they have a student in their class or a family that needs support? And looking again at that community piece and making some of those changes so that there is policies in place, so that there is opportunities there then for engagement with families, engagement with community, to really make that difference and look at how we approach the whole child model and indicate the services that are needed, the mental health, the nutrition, the physical health, and making sure then that those resources are available to all of our students, as well as to our educators who are in much need of that support. We saw it with the pandemic. So much outreach that was done from community partners into the schools. And so again, it's that integrated service and support that is needed. And so that is how we looked at the definition of a community school, looking at the whole child and looking at what services were needed. Yes, with the pandemic, we saw a lot of nutritional needs, of childcare needs. There was just a lot there that we wanted then to make sure as we embarked on this work that we were mindful of how we were going to help these school districts then be able to provide those resources to their students and their families.
The teacher in me says, just raise your hand if there's a question at any point. Okay, we don't need to wait to the end or anything like that. So as Mariella was saying, this is kind of an opportunity to think about how we do school differently post-pandemic. I think particularly as No Child Left Behind in the early 2000s came in, it was testing, testing, testing. Not that that's a bad thing. I just want to make sure I say that too. A lot of extra responsibilities were put onto schools. And particularly the pandemic really put a flashlight on the idea and knowledge and reflection that schools cannot do it alone and should not do it alone. So this community schools approach is a way to help schools not do it alone, if that makes any sense. So nationally, there's a variety of different organizations and institutions and other partners that might talk about community schools a little bit differently. And as we like to say, if you've seen one community school, you've seen one community school. Everybody kind of does it a little bit different, unique to their school building, unique to their school district, unique to their community. However, these 4 pillars have oftentimes been uplifted as through lines that you can see in high functioning community schools across the country. One of them is integrated student supports, which Mariella talked about earlier in terms of thinking about how we can provide nutrition services and a variety of other services that go beyond academics to help support not only the student, but the family if necessary as well. And we got a great example from Skylar and how that took place as well, which we'll get to in a little bit. Extended and expanded learning opportunities, which many of you are a integral part of, thinking about before school, after school, and summer. As a former high school administrator and teacher, I always think about that summertime and opportunities for internships and career connections as well. And we know sort of at the elementary and the middle as well that the summer melt occurs for our young people who do not come from affluence and do not have the opportunity to engage in a variety of learning opportunities with their families throughout the summer. This is a real opportunity to help prevent that, the summer melt, as we call it, which any high school administrator or middle school or elementary administrator would be happy to, oh, that would be great if we can continue the learning through the summer after school as well. Family engagement as the dual capacity framework has been really uplifted as an opportunity to strategically engage families in family engagement processes, much more so than just come on in for parent-teacher conferences and an open house, but how do we provide authentic opportunities for family voice, not just in before and after school, but also what our school is focusing on, and a seat at the decision-making table as well is really integral to that piece, which blends into collaborative leadership practices. As much as, I'm sure some administrators would like to make a decision on their own and go, there is this robust opportunity for partnership that helps provide perspective and resources and opportunities to collaboratively put forth a school and community improvement plan that is really going to lift all boats. So as Mariella had mentioned, she wanted me to talk about this. Okay. As Mariella had mentioned earlier, this is a bit of a process. And if any of you are familiar with sort of the educational lingo around a continuous improvement process as well, it's never, hey, we've checked these 8 boxes, we're a community school. There should be continued revision and input from families and teachers and community organizations around how are we providing these services? How can we do it better? Is everybody being served in a way that meets their needs? So sometimes we hold up standards, and if you do these things, you're a blue ribbon school or whatever the case is on that front, whatever designation. Sometimes those sort of standards might indicate success to be. We're always looking to get better in a community schools process here.
If you could go back to that one, I do want to make sure, again, as you are 21st century grantees, you know about school improvement because it is part of the work that you already do. I know that all of you have a continuous improvement plan that you're also looking at and analyzing your data to see, okay, which students do we need to target? Who is it then that still needs to be at the table for our leadership? And so there is that continuous improvement where, again, there's that huge connection that you are already doing in the after school world that is very, very beneficial as we look at a community school approach and ensuring then that there is quality service available after school, during summer, weekends even. I know several of you have programming that's available. And so again, the work that you already do fits so nicely into the community school approach because you're already doing all of that work. And so how then can you be at the table as we're embedding a community school approach over all school districts, hopefully, but looking at how do we then integrate all of that. And again, the continuous improvement process, it is something that the department I know works on heavily. And so aligning with your administrators, your school districts to say, okay, well, we're already doing some of this stuff. How can we help? How can we be at the table then in our students, in our family engagement pieces and really making that strong connection? Because again, you're doing the work. And so how can you help your administrators know as they are working on their school improvement plans, hey, guess what? Family engagement is part of our work. How can we engage with that? Or again, student learning, we can embed after school homework clubs. There's also additional academic supports that all of you support already. And so making that connection for that continuous improvement. Again, the community school approach is an approach. It is looking at how are you changing the culture of your building and how can you, again, be at the table to make some of those leadership changes and policies.
The other thing too, I want to mention, there is a continuous improvement framework that Mariella mentioned. There's also great work being done on the multi-tiered systems of support work with NDE. A lot of school districts are taking this MTSS approach around academics and behavior. I like to call it MTSSC, as in community. Let's think about the holistic opportunity to provide multiple tiers of support for not only our young people, but our families as well. So this is kind of what those 4 pillars, conditions for success might include. Shared leadership and governance, that's that collaborative leadership model. As Mariella mentioned, the whole child perspective. The responsiveness to needs is also part of that continuous learning, right? It might be food insecurity this year, but next year it might be lack of access to vision resources for kids who need glasses. The year after that, it might be, I hope not, a pandemic. Like, how do you, so it's being responsive, not that, hey, we did this last year, so we're automatically going to do it again this year coming up, but continually thinking through how can we be responsive. The nice thing about community schools is you have somebody in a site coordinator who has the time and the space to go out and make partnerships in conjunction with the school. If you're a school leader, oftentimes you're dealing with everything that's coming in your door every minute of the day. And you'd love to go out and make partnerships and create strong relationships in the community. But sometimes the time and the space and the reality doesn't do that. Mariella will probably mention a few different examples from a partner site earlier around, hey, these partners now just reach out to the site coordinator, and the principal trusts and knows and understands where this community schools approach actually reduces some burdens on school administration as well. Not to say it's a silver bullet and it fixes everything, but definitely on that front. Seeing this work is integrated and not by itself. The last thing you want to hear is, well, after school is so-and-so's job. Thinking through the whole thing as we kind of reflect and improve. High quality services and programs, family engagement we mentioned. Evaluation and sustainability are sometimes the least fun things for me to talk about, but I certainly know they are probably the most important things to talk about. They are very difficult, as we know that supporting a whole child, sometimes you're not going to see these amazing specific results in a broader population over the course of 1 year. This is a long game play to support children from before they enter school all the way through until post-secondary and beyond. So thinking through how we evaluate that, some of the resources we share a little bit later are going to provide some frameworks for you if you'd like. And then sustainability. We're kind of learning about what it really kind of costs to do community schools. And again, every community is going to be different, but thanks to the wonderful brain here standing on my right, Mariella, it's actually cheaper than some communities think because there are already a lot of resources available. It's just the knowledge and connection to and access of those resources that allows this to work really pretty smoothly. hopefully there'll be some legislation. Hopefully there's a whole variety of different things we can do to help create some sustainability of this work. So we're going to kind of talk about lessons learned here. Again, I just wanted to throw out that this is a process, and I'm very happy that these 4 communities have partnered with us on this pilot, and have been open and vulnerable to sharing what's worked and what hasn't worked, because, oh, hey, you're getting all this money, this should really work smoothly, shouldn't it? Well, any relationship, between community organization and school is going to have some bumps in the roads, no matter how aligned you are. So our hope is to be able to talk about the successes as well as some of the bumps in the road. So here are some overall themes that you would see. There is certainly a hiring and training aspect that needs to be considered. And these 4 communities have had the opportunity to do that. They have job descriptions. They've kind of figured out where they're going to have an office, all those sorts of things that seem kind of in the background, but are pretty important to its implementation. The partnership expansion has been really key to a lot of these communities as well. And then the last thing I want to mention around some of these accomplishments is these schools and these sites were doing a nice job of family engagement prior to this. They've been able to take it to the next level, to have this additional capacity to help support, to think about reaching people that you don't normally reach, in asking families, how can we better serve you and your young person? Evaluation framework, we're going to have something a little more robust at the end of year 2 next year, but this year 1 was really around listening to stories from families and administration and site coordinators and community partners about this process. How are we going to continually to intentionally facilitate communication? Really working to develop an advisory committee. So it's not just the site coordinator, building leader, and a collaborative, which NCFF helps support 22 collaboratives across the state. Just those 3 saying, well, how can we do this? How can we add to this decision-making advisory team? And then we hopefully are going to be able to lead some expansion of this work in a network or a coalition of communities that are interested in a community school approach and taking what they feel like would be working for them in their community, and also provide some professional connections as well. Hey, we're working on how food insecurity. What are you doing for this? Oh, that's a good idea. I didn't think about that.
So these are some of the highlights then from each of the locations that we're currently working with. And so Grand Island, again, it's the Early Childhood Center. We were very fortunate that when we approached these communities, they were the ones who decided what school building they wanted to operate a community school approach at. And so we got fortunate that we're starting in early childhood. We have elementary, middle school as well. Hopefully in our next one, we can get a high school, and Joe, you can have a lot more connection with that administrator and the kids there. But at the O'Connor Center, they have been very fortunate. They had a school social worker who decided to take on the position of the school community coordinator. And she has very much been integrated into the school leadership, which again, as we said, is key to this model. And so the work that she was able to do was early on creating a need assessment for what did families want out of their learning at an early childhood center. And so looking at how to identify those needs by creating that need assessment, surveying families to ask, what can we do? How can we help and support? And so they've done everything from utilizing the community cafe model, which some of you may be familiar with. And again, giving parents that leadership role to then give back to their community and to get feedback again from families as they are developing an early childhood model of identifying, what do I need to do to get my kid ready for kindergarten? What do I need to do for the support that it's going to look like once we leave the O'Connor Center and move over to the elementary school? What will that look like? And so really looking at how to integrate some of those pieces into their early childhood education. Their administrator has been on board from day one. And again, that's been a key for their success. The coordinator then is able to focus on some of the support that the school has identified as needs. And then the administration is very much aligned with, yes, let's do that. Let's get kindergarten readiness. Let's make sure that we're providing families with monthly family events and providing those services again right there at the O'Connor Center. One of their big challenges, because it is an early childhood, it is a half-day program. And so they have basically two sets of kids groups that come in the morning. Then they either are going back home, getting picked up by a parent or a guardian, or going back to an early childhood center. And they saw a huge need for childcare after they were done with preschool, or again, if they're a working family and they're in the afternoon rotation of preschool, what do you do with your kid? And so they had a community partner with the YMCA. They went to them and said, how can you provide space? Or we can provide you the space at the O'Connor Center if you can then provide childcare for our families, because again, it's a need. And so that's where that strong partnership and communication between the need of the parents, the school utilizing that knowledge that they now had and looking for a partner to say, yes, we would be able to host you here at the O'Connor Center and provide childcare then for families who would need it. And that's been how they have been able then to provide additional things at the O'Connor Center. Vision exams are one that they're working on. They had a dental clinic that was available to them this summer, so that once students were coming in, they could have their teeth checked to make sure. I think they were putting in like the sealants on some of the kids. But again, it's been the partnership then that the school community coordinator has been able then to bring in to the O'Connor Center. They've also worked on transportation, because again, it's an early childhood center. They can't walk to the O'Connor Center or leave from their walk-in. They're in a shopping mall. When Joe and I first went, we're like, where are we going? It's the old Shopco in Grand Island. It's the building. And so it is like a box building, but they have tried and they have done an amazing job of making sure then again, once you walk in, it's a welcoming environment. They had a lot to do with how they set up all of their classrooms. And again, the community coordinator then is able to help implement some library services, additional things then that the teachers have identified are what they want to make sure then that their families are supported.
And Grand Island is also a community of practice on success planning, which I'll talk a little bit about, plenty of lessons learned, but it's almost an implementation strategy for full service community schools. We'll get there in a minute. Any questions at the moment? Let me pause and. Okay. All right, in Fremont, a little unique as they're in a middle school and their student population is much larger in terms of a site coordinator to student ratio. The site coordinator helps partner with the school in a whole host of different family engagement activities. The thing that is unique about Fremont in what they've implemented is if there is a referral in terms of an identified need of a family, potential rental assistance, could be food insecurity, the central navigation, the community support organization is able to take that on. So the referral is there, then the site coordinator has an opportunity to be a continual check-in at the school building and not sort of an extra thing for the family to have to work through and consider as they work together. Vision Mobile Clinic, Children's Hospital is a partner that helped provide that. That might see a theme there for Vision. Again, resource connection. They've also developed a resource room. So as if a middle schooler comes in and exhibits a need, maybe wearing the same shirt 5 days in a row or something like that, it doesn't have to be a big whole ordeal around this, that, or the other. There's a resource room. Anybody can go in and grab what they need free of cost, and then return to class and roll from there.
I would just, yes, one of the big key points that Fremont has been able to do with their school community coordinator is to have that person then be part of their multi-tiered system of support. So they do participate in those weekly meetings. And so the coordinator is able to hear, okay, here are what we're doing for all of our students in regards to academics, in regards to behavior, social support, child well-being. And so then she can hear that. She then can coordinate some of those additional services. One of the things that had come out was parents understanding what the middle school brain looks like, or why are they saying they don't know what we've already talked about. And so that came out of a multi-tiered system of support meeting, like brain development. And so then she was able to make a connection then with their education service unit to provide a training then for parents and educators of this is what the middle school brain or the adolescent brain looks like. And this is why they say, I don't know what I just did. Which again, I think it's wonderful that she is a part of that team and is getting integrated into the school system to one, learn the alphabet soup because she did not come from education background. She was a social worker prior to that for migrant students. And so again, she brings in some additional resources, but now knowing what the multi-tiered system of support that is needed at the school, she is able to make those connections then and provide that wraparound service through her community collab to again, integrate into the school time.
And I did Fremont a disservice because the other thing that they're talking about is the kids who are not involved at the school building after school tend to go to the YMCA just down the street. And so she's been able to facilitate conversation around opportunities to bring YMCA staff in to learn the language and lingo from what the middle school is talking about in terms of behavior expectations. So when they go from one to the next, there's a consistency there that helps support each other actually. And so just, doesn't cost anything to allow extra people to come in and sit in on a school-wide expectations sort of meeting and knowing there's been that strong partnership there and alignment is the key to help facilitating those things. And I think they're going to do some, youth memberships as well for young people who need it, particularly for that after school time, who aren't in a school organized activity.
So this is Skylar. Skylar had quite a few accomplishments this last first year. They really hit the ground running as again, they analyzed what the needs were in their community. Skylar Elementary School is actually one of the largest elementary schools in the state. They have about 600 plus students. It's a beautiful building. It's a huge building. I was like, wow, this is like a middle school sized space, not an elementary school. So what they were able to do, they have a very strong community collaborative that is actually out of Columbus. And so they have, again, a central navigator that helps with a lot of the resources. But what was nice is that they also had a family literacy program at Skylar already. And so the community coordinator was able to tap into the resources from that as well, and the parents that were already a part of the family literacy program. And so again, identifying what are your needs, how can the coordinator be of service. One of the things when Joanne actually went to visit and we talked to the school nurse and asked, what do you need? What could be something that the community school approach can help? And they indicated vision. She said, I have kids who have not been able to get glasses because in Skylar, there is one optometrist and it's at a fee and families are not able, actually I take it back, they're in Columbus, they're not even in Skylar. And so again, for a family then to have to transport a child during school time or after school was a barrier. And so then kids were not getting their full comprehensive eye exam. And so with a partnership through the Nebraska Optometrist Foundation, the school community coordinator and the school nurse connected with them and were able then to bring in a mobile clinic into the school building. They're lucky again because they have 600 and plus students, they have 2 gyms. And so they brought in, the optometrist brought in all of the equipment and they were able then to test the vision of 33 students, first and second graders then that had their eyes checked. And it was a comprehensive eye exam. I mean, they put the little, I don't even know the eye drops. I don't even know what they're called. But they did that. And then once they were done, the kids were able then to select frames that they would then be able to receive free of charge because of the foundation being able to help provide that to them. And so it was a huge undertaking. But again, the families were so thankful. I remember being there and the mom saying, well, where do I pay? And the coordinator saying, no, this is something that we're providing as part of our school and to make sure then that your child has glasses. And the parent was like, wait, what? Thank you. Because again, this is one less thing that parent then was having to pull money out of their pocket to be able to do this. And so again, that's how they've taken their approach. They've worked very closely with a lot of their community partners. So their city library that is in Schuyler has been a huge partner for them during this summer and providing some learning opportunities. They had a great back to school bash that was very well attended, I would say, and it was open to their whole community. That's one of the things that Schuyler has been focusing on because it is a very small community. How then do you bring the resources into the school when there really isn't a whole lot of resources? And so they've looked at who else in our nearby communities. So Columbus being one, who can we bring there to provide some education for parents on resources? They're currently working on some safe riding. So getting parents educated on how to wear your seatbelt and that you need to make sure that you're wearing your seatbelt while you're in a vehicle. And so again, it's been a lot of work that they've done on the ground level to make sure that they are meeting the needs of their families. It is a very high Spanish speaking community. And so they got very lucky that their school community coordinator is bilingual. And so has again been able to make a strong connection then to the families to be able then to feel welcome and to come to the school. And Bill, the principal, has said that's key. I want families to feel welcome. I want them to know that we are here, that our doors are open for whatever services that they may need, because we want to be the cornerstone of their education, starting in elementary, starting in early childhood. And again, it starts with that community coordinator knowing the resources and knowing what the needs are then for their families.
And Mariella shared a really good example on the eye clinic on how it costs the school and school district nothing because of that partnership, because that resource was already there. So obviously the school sees a benefit. The school district appreciates not having to fork out dollars for that, but making those connections was really important. And South Sioux City is, last but not least, at Dakota Elementary. They've really developed a strong partnership with their families. They actually, looked at Lewis and Clark Elementary, which is a partner, and they had a family literacy program there. So the site coordinator was over there, was able to learn a lot about that and come back to Dakota City and say, what elements of this do we want to do here? And it eventually formed into an empowered parents group where they feel like they're ready to go talk to the school board about an expansion because they have all this stuff going on. And, again, with a variety of different education and family opportunities around health and nutrition, and all supported by the school district, the community collaborative. And every time I get a chance to see and hear of that empowered parents group, it is a model for what you would like active family engagement to look like, with a very diverse set of representation as well. So anything else on this? I want to make sure I leave time for questions. But
another big thing that they had in South Sioux City is that this summer they were able to provide summer meals, which when I first heard that, I was like, wait, you've never offered summer meals? Like my Office of Coordinated Student Support Service director would be upset. Like, why do we not have nutrition during the summertime? And so there was also from parents saying, are we going to be able to have meals available during the summertime, breakfast and lunch? And the coordinator was able to go back to the district and say, my parents are wanting this. And actually one of their empowered parents went to their school board and spoke in Spanish at their school board and said, I want to make sure that our family then has a meal during the summertime. And so they were able to implement it for 2 weeks during the summer. This was their test run, and their school district was like, oh, wait, you did have people that came. So maybe we'll think of it again for next year and be able to provide that. So again, that came from the parents saying, we want this, and the coordinator being able to say, well, let me get you the tools. And again, prep them on how to present to their school board to say, this is a need, please help us.
So there's a variety of different resources and examples, and you might have heard through the four sites and lessons learned. Oh, I think we're doing something like that. We're doing a lot of that. Lincoln Public Schools has got a great CLC model that is really an exemplar locally, in the state of Nebraska. There's a whole slew of different opportunities to look at some resources all across the country from, Oakland's got some stuff going on. City Connects is out in Boston. The Community School Playbook is 100 and some pages, is really a great resource as you want to kind of look through a variety of different ways to do business, examples of each of the 4 pillars as you're thinking about what you maybe want to take from that. Just know you don't have to do it all. Okay, you can take what you think is going to work at your school, at your building, in your community. Learning Policy Institute actually has got a ton of great research on it. So again, it's quite a long document that I've had the opportunity to read through real recently to really provide the evaluation piece on why this works, not only for academics, but for social emotional well-being as well. And I'm going to talk. Well, do you want to mention any of I think the North Dakota model you had ended up sharing, but I don't know if that's any much different than what we've discussed already. So moving forward, as you think about how you can work to do community schools your way, the big thing is going to be engaging. Did I take your slide? Okay, I'm sorry. You just got to, that. You just got to take this thing away from me here. Sorry. Engaging your school leadership team. And really, if you can get a seat at the school improvement team meetings, that's a wonderful opportunity to listen, to think about what the school administration is really focusing on, and being able to bring to the table opportunities for partnership and solution around, oh, I know you're working on reading scores. What curriculum do you use? Can we have our staff sit in on the PD that's going on so we can do the same thing after school or before school that they're receiving during the school day? And a whole variety of other things. Fremont with their site coordinator sitting on the MTSS to be able to say, oh, I'm hearing a lot of need for X. I'm not sure you're aware, but this is what's going on. We have the resources to connect here. How can we make that work? I would really encourage you to map existing resources. What is already available? It's actually harder than it seems. So, bringing in as many people as possible to say, what do we offer around? It'd be best to align with what the school is, trying to provide and uplift as well. But you can also bring things to the table to say, hey, we're seeing a lot of kids after school that are just really hungry. How can we integrate food security in on that? What's working and what needs strengthening? That also sometimes sorry, it's not rocket science, this approach. So it's just really kind of being intentional about thinking through these partnerships and making those connections. Any additional? Okay, and my favorite thing to talk about here, it's in its infancy at Grand Island, but it's this concept or idea called success planning. So we understand tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 interventions, and full service community schools is really an opportunity to provide supports in each of those areas and tiers. But how do we make sure every young person has a team of people looking at their unique strengths and weaknesses and including the family in making sure Joe gets access to after school opportunities that interest him? And so you really, it's a process that looks at academic supports, health and social services and enrichment activities, and really putting together a plan. And this is really important for if you're doing it district-wide transitions from building to building. So you don't necessarily need to start all over as a kid goes from elementary to middle to high, and empowering that high school student once they graduate to understand where their interests are, where their strengths are, how they best comprehend information, what types of things they like to do, and types of specific health services they need as well. So next year, we'll have a much more robust update on how it went for Grand Island, as they're one of 12 communities across the country that was selected to participate in this success planning community of practice.
So this, very briefly, because I know we're running out of time, where do community organizations fit? So again, several of you already have that strong partnership with people who are providing after school opportunities through clubs, through potentially funding. And so wanting to make sure again, what do you need and how do you ask for that need to be met? And so really identifying, is it academic support? Are you bringing in mentoring, tutoring into your school? That social emotional well-being. I know several school districts across the state are using the second step. I know that there is a strong partnership then with several schools that are using it then after school as well. So again, making some of those connections, as Joe had said earlier, you're already doing some of this stuff. So how can you then engage with your school to say, what do we need to do then to support you during the school day that we can do? And when I used to be in after school, I used to say, we get to do all the fun stuff that you guys don't get to do in class anymore because you're testing or getting ready for a test. So how can you make sure that you're doing the fun things after school and bringing in those partners? Again, sharing a vision and mission with your partners is key. And we have seen it with the community school pilot sites, is that somebody may come and say, well, we have some funding we would like to provide you, but we have to do this, this, and this. Does that align with what you're wanting to do? Is that your goal? And if it's not, being able to say, no, thank you, we're good. Thank you today. Maybe we'll have that as an opportunity for later, but really looking at then what is your vision? What do you want to do? What is the need, and how can you then bring in those partners to help you align with that? Is it partnering with your parent teacher organization or association, and identifying some family engagement opportunities that you can do together, but really looking at what is your vision? What do you want to do? And who do you need to have then at the table to be able to do it?
Yeah, and just kind of thinking about your best contact point, in your community. Is it the school building leader? Is it the superintendent? Is it the PTA organization? Just to start thinking about this partnership and what it may or may not look like in your community specific. Okay. Wanted to provide an opportunity. I do want to mention that NDE, in partnership with the Nebraska Children and Families Foundation, has applied for the full service community school grant, absolute priority for scaling. So if I can speak our award into existence, I think there's going to be really a more robust opportunity to take a look at what this looks like, hire people specific to be in school during the day to help support this effort as we look to engage with communities who are interested in this type of an approach. So if I can speak that into existence, we'll find out by the end of the calendar year whether or not we receive that award this year. We'll receive it at some point. And if it's this year, if it's not this year, it'll be next or the year after. So any questions? One question I often get around this work is how much does it cost, right? Like if you're bringing this sort of thought and approach, if you're thoughtful and strategic around partnerships that are already existing, the cost to the district or community organization that's supporting the site coordinator is their salary for the most part. Now, we do have additional funds to do some startup things, but generally speaking, whatever you would pay your site coordinator plus benefits, right, is the bare minimum. And I would probably add, somewhere around 20%, especially for startup, as you're trying to start some new initiatives and fill some gaps. So I would say somewhere around $70,000 to $100,000 a year as you get going. That's going to look very different in each community based on role and all those sorts of things. So sometimes we kind of say, well, we don't want to talk specifics on money, but I wanted to give you that kind of a range when you think about personnel and opportunities to provide supports where there are gaps.